How is everybody doing tonight? This is the Unfound live show for April 18th, 2018. Hello, Kelly. Kelly is first tonight. Kelly, thanks for joining. How's everything up in Pennsylvania? Is it finally getting a little warmer up there, Kelly? I hope it is. It was a beautiful day here in Madeira Beach, Florida. Not a cloud in the sky, but I was stuck inside all day doing Unfound work, of course. Spent a lot of time on the phone today. Driving to work yet again. While Kelly, thank you for making time. Lois and Christina, Charlie, how are you? Bobby, we're going to be talking about. I think you know what I'm going to touch upon here in a few minutes. So thank you for joining me tonight. Kelly's saying until tonight. Tomorrow's supposed to be freezing rain and snow tomorrow in Pennsylvania. Wow. Stephanie, glad you remembered it's Wednesday. And hi right back at you, Lois Lane. What we're going to do tonight, as is usually the case, looks like a lot of the people so far that are in this watching tonight are some people that I've seen before, but just maybe there are some people who I don't see on my list that may be new. What I do is I do a little intro, tell you a few things that are going on with me, with the show, a little bit just general things. And there's Christy. Hello, Christy, and Kara. Kara, long time no talk. I've been busy. Dorothy, good to see you. And then we're going to do a little business. I want to take questions for all of you. To my knowledge, I did not get any questions before starting the program tonight. So if you have any questions that you'd like me to answer, whether about the show or anything else, please type those in the comments section, and I will try to answer them before the end of the show. Dee Dee, once again with her Wonder Woman picture, one of my favorites. Dee Dee, welcome tonight. And then we're going to do a little true crime news that has popped up within the last week. One of them is going to be recent news, and another one's going to be a program that I watched for a case that I believe I'm going to be covering in the near future. And then, as always, we end each night talking about this week's case for Unfound, which, of course, comes out every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern. And that is going to be the disappearance of L. Copper in Avonmore, Pennsylvania on June 6th, 2013. So we got a lot to do tonight. Once again, if you have any questions for me, please feel free to type them in the comments section, and I will try to get to them before the program is over. So just to start out here, my dad had his gallbladder out yesterday, so I've been a little preoccupied, a little bit worrying about him because he's 81 years old, and I would say it happened fairly quickly. He started getting sick last Thursday, and then he felt better on Friday and Saturday. Then the pain came on again Saturday evening, and he went to the hospital, and he's been in there ever since. But maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes before the show started, I was on the phone with him, and he's doing fine. He's still in the hospital, probably going to be there till Friday, but he's feeling a lot better. It was no big deal. The surgery was no big deal. And I think he's going to be just fine, especially for being 81 years old. Joyce, good to see you tonight. Very, very good to see you. And Stephanie, thank you. My dad, whose name is also Ed, Big Ed, is hanging in there. He doesn't deal very well with pain. And when he gets sick, he can be a little bit moody and everything else. He's a traditional guy. You know, we get the flu and we think the world's ending. That's how my dad is, but maybe even a little worse. But he's relaxed. I talked to him on the phone. He sounds a lot better than he did a couple days ago, of course, when he was killing him. But his gallbladder's out. May have to alter his eating habits a little bit, which he could probably do anyway. But his mind's good. I think that he's going to be back to normal in no time. Yes, Charlie. Yes, Big Ed. People who know me and my dad well, he is Big Ed and I'm Little Ed. That's true. That's a true story, Charlie. Yeah. Oh, Big Ed. Yes, that's true. Shelly and Lisa, welcome tonight. Good to see you. The next thing, so my dad's doing good. My mom got back from her cruise, and she got back from the cruise just for my dad to go into the hospital. Go figure. Just the way it worked out. But she's hanging in there, too. A friend of hers is with her, helping her up there in Pennsylvania. Elk Grove, California. Okay, Shelly, Elk Grove, California. I don't think I've ever been there. The newsletter, I sent out the April newsletter today. So if you think you're on the list, you should have gotten it. If you think you're on the list and you didn't get it, please check your spam folder. And if it's not there, then email me personally, like message me on Facebook, and I will make sure that you get it. I'm still having some issues I had a couple people, and I thought I put them on the list, and I went in there and it wasn't. So I don't know what happened. But I've had a couple people already today say that they should have gotten it, that they didn't. So I went in there and made those corrections. It's a nice long newsletter. Talk about some upcoming cases. Talked a little bit about my conversation with the guy from NamUs that I had a few days ago. That was interesting. Maybe I can talk about that in a bit. What did I talk about? Talked about a variety of issues that have popped up. So I hope if you are on the newsletter list, I hope you got it. Shelly says, good to see you. Oh, Dad in the hospital. He should not have gotten that TV. Just kidding. Hope he's on the mend. Oh, Shelly, you saw that post. You saw the post. So you think it maybe was like a little bad juju getting that TV while my mom was gone, and so he got the bad karma and he got the bad gallbladder. That's a thought. I'm going to have to run that by my dad to see what he thinks about that. That's a good one, Shelly. Nicely done. That's funny. Angela, welcome tonight. Good to see you here. Now something serious, and I see that Bobby Walker is in here, and so I want to get to this. This is something I posted in the group already, and it is part of the newsletter that I sent out today. But if you haven't gotten the newsletter or you didn't see what I posted in the group today, I'm going to go through it. Of course, this is recorded. It's going to be on YouTube, so a lot of people are going to see it. All of you should know that the son of Donald Adams contacted me last week. Donald Adams is a guy whose name came up during my interview with Bobby in the disappearance of Bobby's dad, James Walker. And you have to I wouldn't call Donald a suspect, but he's a person of interest. He was one of the last people to see James, along with a woman named Juanita and another man and woman. And Ronald was not happy about the way his father was portrayed. And at the beginning, he was a little angry, but I assured him that I would talk to him, which I did. We had extensive back and forths. I asked him some questions. I told him I would listen to anything that he had to say, and that is absolutely the truth. However, those conversations are between me and Ronald, and I sent a copy of the conversation to Bobby. Bobby now has it in his possession. Hello, Darlene. Good to see you tonight. Ronald wanted me to say that, first of all, Ronald was only 14 years old at the time in 2000 when James disappeared. However, Ronald was living in the house where Donald was, where James was, where the rest of those people were before they went to the food line that morning. Ronald was at school. When he got home, he said he did not see any signs in the house, didn't smell anything, didn't see anything, didn't hear anything that would indicate that his father had anything to do with the disappearance of James Walker. Okay? Instead, what Ronald told me, he is pointing the finger at somebody else. I'm just going to use the guy's first name. His name is Doug. Bobby and I have talked about this. Bobby knows who this Doug person is. And I will just leave that conversation between myself and Bobby about this particular person. Doug once again, Ronald was thought that Bobby and I went off without having enough facts and everything, but I would like to think that, as I always say, the facts are those people's problems. I would like to think that on Unfound, we don't do a lot of theorizing. We just present the facts. And the facts are that Donald was one of the last people to see James. The fact is, on the video outside the Food Lion, Bobby has seen the video, and he does not believe that James is in that video. Whereas Donald has told police, along with the other people have told police, that James was with them when they went to the Food Lion. Ronald has never seen that video, so he can't make a judgment for himself. And keep in mind, he was only 14 at the time anyway, whereas Bobby has seen the video, as have police. But I told him that I would tell all of you that Ronald definitely disputes the fact that his father could ever be involved in the disappearance of James Walker. He claims that Donald and James were very good friends. In fact, he says that James spent several holidays over at his house. James stayed at their house many times. And I've not had a chance to talk in depth with Bobby about this privately, but these are the things. I don't know if these are true or not, but this is what Ronald is saying. I don't know what to think. I think that it's very natural for any son to come to his father's defense, so I do not hold that against Ronald. I will also say that I do not believe that Ronald is lying for his father or anything else. I'm convinced that Ronald does not know anything about the disappearance of James Walker. He very well may believe that his father didn't do anything, and it very well may be the case that Donald didn't do anything. It doesn't look good for Donald, those other people, but I'm not sure how much that really means. But I told Ronald that I would present his side of it to all of you. I'm willing to talk to Ronald anytime, and I've told him that. Continue talk. In fact, I'd like to talk to Donald just to get his side of it, and I will ask him the tough questions. That's what I do. I will not have him perpetrate any lies on me or anything like that. If Donald Adams is going to talk to me, then he's going to get tough questions, because I ask tough questions of the family members that I talk to as well. All right, I'm just looking for the truth. And if Ronald or Donald can offer up anything that proves to me that they had nothing to do with the disappearance. Now, this isn't a trial. This isn't innocent to proven guilty. I'm just looking for the facts. It pays for me to be cynical. That's just the way this program works. So, but if Donald wants to talk to me, he should know that he's going to get tough questions. I will say one thing. I did ask Ronald, because this came up in my interview with Bobby. And if you haven't listened to that episode, please go back, whether on iTunes, Podbean, wherever, Podomatic, you can listen to that episode. Bobby and I do talk about the suspicion that James and Juanita, Donald's wife, were having an affair. All right, that comes up in the interview. I asked Ronald about this at least twice. He avoided the question. All right, now, I'm not sure if Juanita to his mother, maybe that's a little too close to home for Ronald to talk about. But surely if Juanita's married to Donald and James and Juanita are having an affair, that would certainly cause some sort of problem eventually if it was discovered. It's certainly a good motive. We know that. But I gave Ronald more than one opportunity to deny that or offer any opinion, insight into that at all. He did not. Once again, you can judge that for what it's worth. And I know he saw the question because he answered most of the other questions that I asked him. So and it should be known for the record. For the record, I will talk to any person of interest who contacts me. Okay? I want to talk to them. I want to try to give their side of the story, but I'm going to ask them tough questions. And if I think that they are withholding information or lying and everything, I'm going to tell them so. And then I'm going to tell all of you. All right. But if I think they're telling the truth, I'm going to say that as well. I think that that is fair. I think that's as fair as I can get. But if they think they're going to come on here and just get to say whatever they want or just issue a statement, I'm supposed to read it and believe it, that's not going to happen. All right. Ronald also wanted me to say that allegedly he and his family hurt as much as anybody when James disappeared. His disappearance hit them hard as anybody else who knew James well. So you can take that all for what is worth. I promised Ronald that I would tell my listeners his side of it, my conversation with him. That is truthfully what happened. I sent a copy of it to Bobby, and Bobby can verify it with all of you if he wants to. That's up to him. So there you go. I needed to get that out of the way tonight as well. Let's go. Lisa, I think it's a great idea. You'll probably have more identity fraud hits than anything else, but you never know. I'm not sure what exactly you are talking about there. Let me go back here for a second. Hold on. Let's do this for a moment. I think it's a great idea, probably more identity theft than anything else. I'm not sure what that meant, Lisa. Maybe you might have to expand on that. Read up. Oh, I'm sorry. I love the way you treat. I'm missing some of these things. I'm lonely. Okay. Okay, Ed, sorry. LOL. Okay, I'm sorry I missed it. And I missed another comment somewhere up here as well. I hate when I can't figure this out. I hate it. I hate when I feel like I'm missing messages and things like that. Barbara says, this is why yours is the best missing program. You're open to every side of the cases and not afraid to ask the tough questions. That's what I try to do. You know, of course, we've named a lot of suspects on my program. They want to contact me. They want to have a mature, honest conversation. I'll talk to them. And I will treat them exactly like I treat my guests. I will ask them tough questions. And I will let all of you decide. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. Dorothy asked a question earlier. Yeah, Lisa, I know, and I missed it. And I hate it. Let me see if I can find it. I can never figure this out. I don't know why. Why can I never figure out how to... Why can I never figure out how to go back into my question list? I can never figure that out. Yeah, Lisa, I know. Dorothy asked, she asked something about signing a petition or something, right? Dorothy, if you're watching, please type that question again. I apologize, I missed it. Bobby says it's correct. Thank you for the copy. Bobby, you're welcome. You now know what Ronald said. And then if you see, you're saying that I'm representing it perfectly, truthfully as to what happened. So there you go. Just can never figure out. If anybody has any idea how I can go back up into old comments and everything on here, I'm willing to take anybody's suggestions on that because I cannot figure it out. Christy says, wish you were going to Crime Con. Christy, I apologize. It's just not going to happen this year. I appreciate you wanting to meet me, talk to me, everything. That it's very humbling and very nice and everything. Just not going to be there. I just not going to be able to swing it. Kwashura, how do you feel about signing them up for Credit Karma was the question. I missed it. Kate, I'm sorry I missed it. I love the way you treat everyone with the same respect, no matter what walk of life they come from. Really awesome work. Sherry, thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks. How do you feel about signing them up for Credit Karma? Dorothy, once again, I just wish I could get the entire question, and then we can move on. Oh, well. All right. Sorry. Of course, we've got the T-shirts. I'm wearing an Unfound T-shirt. This is my gray one with everybody on the back. The first-year cases. Still working on Volume 3. Just talking to a lot of people recently. Just talking to a lot of people. It'll get done when it gets done. So please check those out. And then, as I always mention to all of you, Patreon and PayPal, that is what makes it possible for guests to receive, for example, the T-shirts that they've gotten. And, for them to... oh, okay. She said a missing person got hits in Credit Karma. Is that a good idea? I still have no idea what that means. I apologize. Dorothy, once again, if you're in there, type it again. Just copy and paste so I can see the whole thing. Or somebody else, if you can find the comment, copy and paste it because I want to see. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Dorothy. How do you feel about signing a missing relative for Credit Karma or similar? A young man who has a brother 4 years got a hit last week. He found out somebody was trying to purchase a car, but I think it might be a way to see if they're living somewhere else. Dorothy, I've never heard of that. How do I feel about it? I don't know how I feel about it. How do you feel about signing a missing relative for Credit Karma or selling? A man who has a brother 4 years lost. Who has a brother? Wow. I guess that's a roundabout way you could do that. But I think, as somebody else said, maybe it might be a way to get your identity stolen. Yeah. Also, as Erica says, what's Credit Karma? That might need an explanation as well. I guess it's just to see. It's just something, a protection to make sure if anybody's trying to steal an identity or something like that. That's interesting, Dorothy. I'd never thought of that. I guess that's one way to do it. In fact, I know there was a case that we covered where the girl went missing and then her identity was used. Maybe, was it Brandy Wells? That her identity was used in North Carolina or something like that. Free credit reporting. Thank you, darling. Free credit reporting company. Nicole, welcome. Mandy, welcome. Sycia, don't want to miss you before you go up the page. I think there is a law that makes it illegal to start accounts related to credit monitoring for someone other than yourself. Mandy, don't worry about being late. We're just getting into this. They guard and keep track. That's an excellent discussion you have going there. Great. Awesome. Let me just get through this. Patreon and PayPal. If you're a member, you are helping these families get the T-shirts and some of the other things that make this all possible. They make it all possible. Let me type something here. So now that we're through the business, this is probably, DB says this has probably been asked already, but if you could only solve one mystery each that you've covered and one that you've not covered, what would those cases be? DB, I can't do that. I'm not going to, I just cannot pick one case over another. That is, I can't do that. All right, I can't do that. Of the cases that I've covered. Now, of the cases I haven't covered, if you could solve one mystery, oh my. I think that's, it's a case that's not very, I think I've brought this case up before. It's not one that's very well known. It's Angela Westbury and Teresa Hickman, two young women who disappeared together in Jacksonville, Florida in 1984. You can look that one up. It's on Charlie Project. It's on NamUs. Not a lot of information out there, but it should be known because two women disappearing at the same time should be pretty well known, just like Peggy and Patty McDaniel. Joyce is in here. So that's what I would pick. Angela Westbury, Teresa Hickman. You can look it up. Disappeared. They went out on a boat with two guys and never came back. So maybe you can all look that one up. That would be my choice for that. So let's get to a little news. I told everybody that I was going to be covering this in the news, and this is this young man who disappeared, Aubrey Jace Carroll, and he turned up alive recently. Found after 2 years. He disappeared on May 24th, 2016. It seemed he just kind of dropped out of his life, grew his hair long. I would call it maybe of like the hippie lifestyle, maybe kind of looks, 47 years old, so I'm an oldster. Kind of like he wanted to live off the land, going all over the United States, just using cash and bartering for food and places to stay, maybe living in, what are they called, hostels or something like that. Well, it turns out that he's just fine. And I think this brings up an interesting question. First of all, the people who do this don't do all of the other missing persons cases any favors. This kind of case is only going to make cops even more doubtful that a person has gone missing and is actually not with us anymore. I can guarantee you right now that at least in this area of the United States, that cops from now on they're going to give the Aubrey Jace Carroll reason as the reason that they're not going to look at, remember Aubrey Jace Carroll? Oh, he came back. That's probably what happened to your daughter. That's probably what happened to your son. So I guess the question is, being that there is we've heard police say it many times, and I've said it many times. I'm just going to be honest. I've said it. Do adults truly have the right, quote unquote, the right to disappear if it hurts all of the other disappearance cases? We keep talking about wherever they're adult, they want to leave their life, they can. They have every right to. But what if it can be proven that those people who do that cause other missing persons cases, people who are really missing, there's absolutely a crime involved, it gives the police the opportunity to blow those ones off. Then do adults truly have the right to do that? It's a tough question, and I know at least, and I think most of you at least are in the United States, we're always balancing that, the very fine line between rights and the public good. It's what our entire civilization in the United States is based on. We believe in human rights, but no right is absolute. There's no absolute right to free speech. You can't yell fire in a crowded theater, on and on and on. So it just seems to me that this right of people to leave their lives is not an absolute right either. If it's hurting other people, if it's hurting other investigations, if it's hurting families who are trying to get answers, who then have the cops say to them, well, remember Aubrey Jace Carroll? He came back. Your daughter or son's probably going to come back to you too. Just relax. Cade says, I wholeheartedly agree. The biggest mistake in most missing persons cases is the fact that police have a preconceived idea when people disappear, especially younger individuals. They are so dismissive toward the parents, institutions, or concerns. Absolutely true. Lisa says, it's a very selfish right. Yes. Yes, and I'm a big rights guy. The right to remain silent, the right to free speech, the right to freedom, all of those. Love them all. But I think that, at least with this, I've gotten to the point now that I've been in missing persons cases for so long, heard so many stories, that if people are going to disappear on their own because they want to live a hippie lifestyle or they want to go travel in Europe and not tell anybody anything, if they are discovered to have done that, then there should be some sort of penalty. There should be something that makes people question whether they want to do that before they do it. Sherry says, not only other missing persons cases, but they have hurt loved ones too. Absolutely. Absolutely. These people go missing on their own is a small percentage. All cases should be treated the same. Yeah. I agree. They should all be treated the same. But I think that these people who disappear on their own and they just, pop out of nowhere, oh, I just wanted to, do this and do that. In the meantime, they've hurt the investigation of other disappearances. There is no doubt in my mind. And missing persons cases are more difficult to solve because of people like Aubrey, Jace, Carol. I'm not saying these young kids should be put in jail. I'm not saying that, or anything like that. But there should be some community service or some fines or something like that. I just believe that. And I'm not trying to make us all slaves of the state or, we have to get permission from the state before we leave our lives or anything. But if they're going to leave, it makes, doling out justice, it makes other people difficult for them to use their rights. That's what happens. So it's such a fine line. Yeah, Lois, that's a great idea. They need to pay for all the searches at least and let someone know where they are. I agree. Yes, make them pay back any money that was spent looking for them. I absolutely agree. If you're going to do that, then, because this is, the tough part about this is we all know, even though we all have suspicions in these cases. We believe that crimes have been committed in most of the cases, at least most of the ones that Unfound is covered. I personally believe that. And when people get in the way of solving a crime, there is usually a penalty that goes along, obstruction of justice or something like that. I wonder if these people could be charged with something like that. I wonder. I'm no legal scholar. I'm sure there would be some defense attorney that would tear that apart, but it is something that comes to mind. Because they are certainly getting in the way of solving these other crimes, which we believe have committed in a lot of these missing persons cases. Yeah, I know. We don't know. But we kind of do know, too. So there he was, standing there. You saw, from this, you saw way he was a couple years ago, short haircut, everything, and then a couple years later, it's the recent photo. And here he was out there just having a great time, living off the land and everything. And meanwhile, everybody's looking for him. Everybody's worrying about him. It just seems very, as somebody's already used the word, a little selfish. I agree with you. Cade said that could set a legal precedent. It could. Yeah. Yeah, because I think that there does need to be a legal precedent set in these situations. I don't think that we can be so secure as to saying that adults just have every right to leave. Now, I know there are going to be people who are leaving for reasons of danger. Women who disappear because they're getting beat on by their boyfriend's husband and, they need to disappear. They can't let anybody know where they're going. They're afraid to tell the police because the police might leak something and everything. I suppose there are exceptions to every rule. I suppose. But I really believe that overall these kinds of cases like Aubrey, Jace, Carol have been a net minus for solving missing persons cases. Yeah, Dorothy, normal people fill out a change of address at the post office. Those others may be escaping abuse or the law or just plain mental illness. Cade says, guarantee his parents have not smiled in 2 years. Probably. So I wanted to cover that with you. I think it's a great topic. I don't know if there's any easy answers for it, but all I'm saying is I think at least in the way in the United States, the way we treat it right now is not totally the correct way. I think that there could be some changes that could be made. Right now, I think we take much too much of a flippant attitude toward these people who just kind of vanish just because they want to live a different life, and then they pop up years later. Oh, yeah, I was just partying, man. We went to Vegas and just decided not to come home and change my name and everything. Something about all of that has to change. Just going to put that thought out there for all of you. Any questions? We had a question, of course, from Dorothy about the credit karma stuff. And then Dee Dee asked me a question about which one I'd like to be solved. I can only answer on cases that don't concern Unfound, unfortunately. I don't want to appear to be biased. Every case that I've ever covered is equally important. Any other questions before I get into the next topic? Because I think you're going to like this next topic too. Any questions about anything that, any cases or anything like that? All right. I had an opportunity over the last about 4 days while I was doing some other things to, wait, hold on. Sherry says, another point is people use that excuse as a reason to murder or harm. They say, oh, well, he just wanted to go away. So it hurts cases in that matter also. Yep. I think, Sherry, if we sit there enough, we can come up with lots of reasons why the way we think about adults choosing to leave their lives has hurt solving the real missing persons cases. That's why it's a fascinating topic. And I'm not sure we have the answer, but it's a great kind of thought experiment. What does that mean? What can be done? How can we fix it? Because, Unfound is not just about cases. I'd like to think that everybody who listens to the program is learning things about missing persons community, not just about in particular cases, but those things that pop up while trying to solve. I have to say that in a way, I'm trying to become a better investigator, and I hope I'm causing all of you to be better researchers, investigators, looking at the facts of each case and trying to compare and contrast so we can all become more intelligent as to what really does go on in missing persons cases. That's one of the goals of Unfound. It's just not, giving you cases that you don't know about, that you've never heard before. That's just one small part of the overall picture. So I think that's why I think it's a fascinating topic to me, and I think it's one that we're probably going to continue to talk about. What I was going to say, the other news item I want to talk about is I had a chance over the last 4 days to watch the series Gone, about these missing women or murdered women, the forgotten women of Chillicothe, Ohio. The reason I think I can say this, the reason I did that is because I plan to cover a disappearance that may or may not be related to that, maybe within the next month, and that would be the disappearance of Jamie Bowen. All right, I am planning to cover that case on an upcoming episode. It's not going to be next week. It may be 2 weeks from now, maybe 3 weeks from now, maybe 6 weeks from now. And so I thought that it was best. It was recommended to me that I should watch this series. I'd not watched it before. Let me cut in here for a second. Mandy says, my daughter going missing is my biggest fear. Would you give coverage and help out fellow listeners if their loved one came up missing? I'm sure I know the answer, but as a parent, I rely heavily on someone with a broader reach than I. That's what I do. I would. The thing is, Mandy, you have to understand something. Essentially, that Unfound is a cold case program. This is what I try to do in the group. I try to cover recent cases and post them in the group or on the page. However, for disappearances that are recent, I would say 6 months and newer, it's probably not the most efficient, best use of time for someone to come on my program. And I'll admit that. I mean, we could do it, but what I don't think a lot of listeners understand is that guests go through a lot of time with me on the phone and through emails and things before they make it on the program. And I have to admit, I take up a lot of people's time. Just today, I was on the phone for 2 hours with a case out of Texas, with a mother of a missing young man out of Texas. We'll probably have another conversation. We'll have back and forth and everything about it. And on recent cases, it is probably better that that time is used in that local area, doing that with local media, putting up flyers, organizing searches, and everything else, because Unfound is a national, international program. At that point, when a case gets to be a year old, 5 years, 10 years old, then it's probably best that it becomes a national story, because by that time, it's a cold case, and more eyes can be brought to bear on that case. Because at that point, the missing person could be anywhere. The person who perpetrated could be anywhere. But in those first few months that a person goes missing, it is probably best the parents and loved ones and private investigators, whoever, spend all of their time concentrating on everything local. Okay, everything local. And I believe that. Because, once again, Unfound, the way it is structured, is basically a cold case program. I can come in and go over everything, because, also, when you let a case go for a year, at least from my perspective, a lot of other things come out. And I will give the family a kind of a second or third shot at covering their loved one's disappearance. Because as you've learned, a lot can come out after 6 months or a year, many years. And I come in, I think, when most people have forgotten that the case exists, except for the family. I think that's the way I see my role in all of this. And I think that that's worked. I think that if I were to get involved with the case right off the bat, and as much time that I take with everything, it's probably taking a family away from doing other constructive things that are better for that local story at that point. And I will continue to believe that. Diane says, somebody got a haircut, looks good. I didn't even talk about that, Diane. Thanks for noticing. I got gel too. How about that? Kate, I really can't imagine the pre-interview because you're so methodical with your line of questioning, getting guests to convey a sequential timeline. That's difficult. I take notes. I create outlines. I go over the outline. I send the outline to the guest. They approve it. They approve the information, and then we do it. They have the outline in front of them. I have an outline in front of me, and we just go down through it. They know a lot of the questions. They know all of the topics are going to be covered, and I just direct the conversation. That's how it works. That's a method that I've been doing since the beginning. But just as an understanding, the guests pre-approve everything that is talked about that you hear in an interview. There are no gotcha questions. There are no surprise topics. Nothing like that. That doesn't help anybody. I want to have a very structured, thorough way of talking to these people, because for a lot of you, that's going to be the first time you're hearing the case, and I need to make sure that you understand what happened, because you might be able to help. And it's no good if the interview is haphazard, all over the place, jumping all over the place. That's no good for anybody. So I do like to be thorough and methodical, and I think the guests like it too. I think that they know that, hey, I have this outline in front of me, and we're just going to go. I know what the topics is coming. I can prepare my mind for it. And I think that shows up with the quality of the interviews that get done. Allison, welcome tonight. So let me get back to what I was saying here about Gone, The Forgotten Women of Chillicothe. I'm going to guess that a lot of you have seen it. It was on Spike TV. I watched the series. And like I said, the reason I did this is because I think I'm going to have an opportunity to cover the disappearance of Jane Bowen. Now, it should be known that she didn't live in Chillicothe. She lived in Columbus. She was at her sister's. She left her sister's place in the morning to walk over to her mother's, and she disappeared somewhere in there. There is a belief that she could be connected to all these other women who disappeared. And she actually is covered in an episode of Gone if you haven't seen it. If you haven't seen Gone, maybe you can find, I don't know if it's on Netflix or wherever else I found it, online, of course, kind of illegally like I usually do, but I got to watch all of the episodes. But Jamie Bowen is covered in one of those episodes, and they talk to at least one guy who was in her life that was a little shady. Although he's not a criminal, he certainly seems a little shady. So I watched it. I'm going to tell you I was unimpressed. I found the entire series to be emotionally manipulative with the way they build things up before commercials. Of course, when I watched it, there were no commercials. But the way they build it up toward, the commercial cuts. And then probably what's become a cliche in reality TV now is when you always know, like, it doesn't matter if it's American Pickers or the Pawn Shop Show from Las Vegas, any of these things, that way they do the edit where they use that long pause when somebody asks a really tough question, they edit it so there's like this really long pause before the person answers. So much is done of that in this program. I think it's a little pathetic. All right. I hate to be a Debbie Downer on all this, but I think some of you have known me for a long time, have been listening to me on Unfound for a long time. You know my attitude toward a lot of these things. I don't like things that are emotionally manipulative. All right. These things are emotional enough. You shouldn't have to manipulate people to care. If you have to manipulate people to care, then you're doing something wrong. There is no manipulation on Unfound. You hear the interviews exactly as they take place, except for the mistakes. And any guest who has ever been on my program will tell you the same thing. I don't edit for content. I don't do things to build up, apprehension or anxiety or anything else. I do not do that. I think it's wrong. That's what entertainment people do. I'm a news person. So I found it to be very emotionally manipulative. In addition, I thought it was a mistake that they played all of the interviews that they did with all of these so-called suspects, drug dealers, alleged murderers, everything else. All it did do was cloud the picture. I think they did it because they wanted to do 8 episodes, so they needed to have enough material for 8 episodes. So they included all of these things that, to me, later were proven to be lies. Well, they have all of this information before they start editing the entire program together. So they left that stuff in, I don't know for what reason. The problem when you do that is that you're putting on the record a bunch of lies. And lies do nothing but cloud the picture more. This was a mistake. Just like I said earlier when I said about persons of interest, if they ever want to talk to me to give me their side of the story, I will do that. But if I think they're lying, I'm not going to play you what they said. All right, I may tell you what they said, and I'll say, this is a lie. This is not true. The way this show was conducted is they took everybody at face value, at least to start, and that puts in viewers' minds the idea that, well, this must be true and everything. And then, like 5 episodes later, they're talking about this interview from the first episode and saying, oh, now we found out it was a lie. That is too no offense. I found it confusing. It's too complicated for people. It's just too complicated. If you're trying to make people understand what happened, then you can only offer the things that you can prove to be true. And anything that is other than that only confuses people. And so I thought they gave the stage to a bunch of liars, drug dealers, killers, pimps, all these people, and just let them talk. And took them at face value. Why? I happen to think that the filmmaker who did this, along with the woman who's with him, and then this ex-FBI guy, I think they thought that they were smarter than these guys and could fool them. They turned out they're wrong. And by the time the 8 episodes are done, nothing is any clearer than when they started. In fact, it's probably cloudier after all this time that they put into it. And so I found it to be emotionally manipulative, and they took too many people's words on things, and in the end, they didn't have a lot to show for it, in my opinion. What you're supposed to do as a news person is you're supposed to collect all the info, check it over, see what makes sense, see if anything can be determined to be the truth and determined to be lies. You tell what you believe to be the truth, and then you present these things and say, all of this is all lies. Over here is the truth. These are all lies. These are people who lied to us. They didn't do that very clearly in this series, and that's a mistake. It's great if you want to have an entertainment program and leave, people on the edge of their seat, but that doesn't help any of these families. It doesn't solve any of the cases. It doesn't help any of the parents that I'm sure that all these parents were happy that their daughter's case got covered, but other than that, it didn't do much. Didn't do much. And this is the problem that I have with most of the TV shows. I don't have a problem with Disappear. My problem with Disappeared is something different. But this is a problem I have with a lot of these shows that are true crime shows. They're emotionally manipulative, and I don't know how much they get done. And frankly, it's the problem I have with a lot of other true crime podcasts out there. Once again, just to be honest. So there you go. I'm wondering if any of you have seen, once again, I'm sure there's some people who've seen it and say, man, I really like that. Well, I apologize if I'm, once again, raining on your parade or anything, but I just wasn't impressed. I wasn't impressed with the filmmaker. I wasn't impressed with this woman who allegedly had all this background in questioning people or anything, and I wasn't surely impressed with this ex-FBI guy. All right, just wasn't. I just really wasn't. But I know that it was popular. I know a lot of people watched it. I'm sure all the episodes were watched. I'm going to guess it got a lot of eyeballs on it. But I just feel like what I do on Unfound is a little different. My attitude toward approaching the topics is just a little different. Cade says, thank you for the compliment, Cade. Kate says, may I ask what initially drew you into missing persons case? Sorry, I've only been listening for the last month, but I love the realistic and respectful approach toward the cases. I'll stop asking questions now. Kate, that's fine. I just think that I have a mind meant for mysteries. I'm not a very good manager of people, self-admittedly. It's tough for me to manage people's wants and desires and emotions. I'm good one-on-one. I think I'm a good interviewer. But if you had me manage a 7-Eleven or a restaurant or something like that, that's not me. So I'm good with information. I'm good at collecting it, analyzing it, putting it in order. I love doing that and seeing new ways to think about things. And what's better than trying to solve real-life mysteries? I like fake mysteries like word jumbles and things like that. But real-life mysteries are, the ultimate. And on top of everything else, I haven't had anything like this happen in my family, so I feel like I have to give back. I haven't had anybody murder in my family. Nobody's gone missing. We're all, I guess, kind of prim and proper, legal people. And so I feel like these people need somebody who's going to listen to them and who has some of the skills that I do and other people do. They need people who are willing to look at the information objectively, aren't going to be emotionally manipulative, not going to buy into lies that other people are going to tell. And, I'm trying to do that. I make mistakes like anybody else, but, that's where I come from, to answer your question. Missing persons cases that Tad Dubai said are the ultimate in trying to solve them. That's what motivates me, and I've really in my life always looked for difficult things, really, to really challenge me. So there you go. So that was gone. The women of Chillicothe. Let's get to this week's case. This is a case that's actually one from Western Pennsylvania. The reason that the Trib is not doing this case, Tribune Review, the newspaper that I'm working with in Western Pennsylvania, is they already did a story on this disappearance last summer, so June, July of 2017. The issue is that the guy who disappeared, Al Copper, his brother Matt contacted me and wanted to see if the Trib would do it. The Trib said, well, you know, we've done a couple stories on it, and the idea for this series that we're working with you on a case is that we have never covered. So I said, tell you what, Matt, if the Trib doesn't take it, we'll do it on my program. I got the okay for the Trib to do that, so that's why this Western PA case, which would normally be covered by the Trib, is going to be covered by me instead. It's the disappearance of Al Copper, June 6th, 2013 in Avonmore, PA, which is this very small town, very close to where I grew up in Leechburg, Pennsylvania, Western PA case. He got up early for work, as he usually did, and then about 4 hours later, his car was found about a mile from his house on an ATV trail. The issue is that, and this trail was off the road that he would have been taking to work. The issue is that same morning, he was photographed at a convenience store, and it's definitely Al. I've seen the picture. I've posted the picture in the group. If you're part of the group, you've seen it. The issue is that that picture was taken in a convenience store in the exact opposite direction he should have been headed that morning. He should have been headed north, and that convenience store is south of where he lived. And it's just not a mile south. It's many miles south. Not sure why he was there. Don't know. I have a suspicion. I don't want to talk about it right at this second. You can decide for yourself once you listen to the episode. So that's one of the issues. The other issue is that allegedly, I mean, this is a grown man. They pinged his phone within an hour of him not getting to work, pretty much. That is something else that you're going to have to gauge for yourself and determine, is that true or did something else happen? The other issue is that the first state cop on the scene and Al's boss, whose name is Brian, well, Al's boss, Brian, was the guy who found the car. Well, the first cop on the scene, he and Brian just happened to be related. Their wives are sisters. And Brian is not the finest of upstanding men. Let's just put it that way. On top of all this, like I said, there's some bizarre things in this case. Finally, 10 days after Al disappeared, he was allegedly seen on the Avonmore Bridge where he lives, running across it. And multiple people allegedly saw him. There was one guy who saw him, and then on one end of the bridge, and it seems like on the other, and two other guys, including Al's mother-in-law's boyfriend, was one of the guys who saw him, and somehow he ran up over a hill and they couldn't catch him. These are some of the facts for this case. And I don't have a name for it yet. As you can see, I have a lot of different themes that I could have for this program. Haven't figured that out yet. But it is the disappearance of Al Copper. He disappeared the morning of June 6th, 2013 in Avonmore, Pennsylvania. It's not a case the case is not on Charlie Project. You have to go to NamUs. And I think there may be a thread on Web Sleuths as well. The interview is going to be with his brother Matt, his younger brother. Matt does a great job, I think, conveying all of these things that I've already talked about. Speaking for the family, he saw Al the night before, said Al was in perfectly fine shape, clear mind, good spirits, everything else, and then the next morning Al disappears. So that is the case for this Friday, the disappearance of Al Copper in Avonmore, Pennsylvania. So we've been doing this for an hour, if you can believe it. This time goes so fast. Just so we covered, so I'll just go over everything. Oh boy, hurry. Barbara says, oh boy, hurry Friday. Kate says, thanks. You're welcome, Kate. Mandy says, Kate, if you could stop asking questions, then I do too. I don't want to ask too many myself. You're more than welcome. Any of you can anytime you want to send me questions about anything, you can contact me. You know where to find me. Just message me. I will try to answer any question you may have about a case, Unfound covered, another case, anything. Let's talk. Let's talk. No problem. So today we covered my dad getting his gallbladder out. Newsletter sent out. Remember, you didn't get it? Contact me. Talked about Ronald Adams defending his father Donald Adams in the disappearance of James Walker. Mentioned the T-shirts, the books. Let's get those out here. Books 1, Book 2, Volume 1, Volume 2. Patreon and PayPal. I've had some generous contributions lately. Thank you. Helps me give things to the guests to help them out in their search for their loved ones. We talked about Aubrey Jace Carroll and how we have to do something about people who just choose to leave their lives for no particular reason, and what can we do about that, because it hurts the real missing persons cases. I talked about the series Gone, about these women from Chillicothe, Ohio, and how that relates to how I might be covering the disappearance of Jamie Bowen. And then I talked about this week's case, the disappearance of Al Copper. So that's the show for tonight. A little over an hour, longest one yet. I thank you for all tuning in, Bobby. Thank you for all you do, Bobby. My pleasure, man. My pleasure. All right, my pleasure. But I'm going to go now, and it's been a pleasure talking to all of you. It's my favorite time of the week, as I always say that every week, and I mean it every week. But you will hear me on Friday for the disappearance of Al Copper, and then you can tune in next Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time on the Unfound page, and we'll do this all again. Everybody have a safe rest of the week and weekend. You've been listening or watching or listening to Unfound Live on Facebook. Good night.